Back now, continuing to follow today's breaking news out of Charlotte, North Carolina. As we showed you earlier in the hour and have been for a couple of hours now, NBC News first obtained cell phone video recorded during the shooting of Keith Lamont Scott. It was given to us by Scott's wife, who made that recording. Joining the conversation now here is Reverend Michael Walrond, Jr. He's senior pastor of First Corinthian Baptist Church here in Harlem, New York. Also with us, former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner. Nice to have both of you with us on a difficult day. Pastor Mike, let me just start with when you saw this video for the first time. What thoughts go through your head?
Yeah, I think immediately one becomes disturbed and outraged to see a wife making this impassioned plea, not with a robber, not with a thief, not with some criminal intent, but making this impassioned plea with police officers to not kill her husband, not to assault her husband. I cannot imagine the kind of trauma that she must have experienced, the pain, but also the anxiety, if you think about it, to sit there and have to plead with police to not kill your husband of 20 years.
And why? It is so, to me, so disturbing that that's where she has to go, that's what she feels she has to say out loud. Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot.
Well, I mean, Kate, she's cognizant of the reality that we're in right now in this country. We have seen this kind of situation play itself out numerous times, and this is now part of the narrative of many African Americans, that we have to now think about how do we engage police, how do we now protect ourselves in case we find ourselves confronted with a situation like this. It is tragic.
Nina, you've said it's almost become, I think your word was normalized.
Yeah, I have, Kate, and amen to what the Reverend had to say. It was just, it was painful to listen to Mr. Scott's wife say, "Don't shoot him, don't shoot him," and it is beyond unfortunate in this country. But this is not new. This has been a generational outcry from the African American community to America. Our country, my country, 'tis the sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, unless you have black or brown skin. And it just, what really bothers me about, let the police, in order to restore and rebuild some trust, a lot is gonna have to go on, Kate, but they need to release the tape. How can they ask the citizens of that city to believe anything unless they release the tape? And you know, my grandmother used to say that you can put truth in the river 5 days after lie, but truth gon' catch up. And so the truth will catch up no matter how it falls. Release the tape to try to restore some type of dignity and hope within that community. And also the governor. What the governor needs to do is to do some of the things that we did right here in Ohio, which is when Tamir Rice, young Tamir Rice, was shot, when John Crawford III was shot, we went to the governor and asked him to put together a task force, and Governor Kasich did just that. And people, our citizens in the state got a chance to express themselves in a very constructive way before they went out into the streets and let it be known that way. So that governor has a lot. He's talking about a state of emergency. Heck, it's been a state of emergency in this country for a long time, and African Americans are sick of it.
Pastor Mike, you used to live in North Carolina. You were a pastor down there. That community, Charlotte, what do they do? Can they do something to mend this relationship between the police force and the community?
I am never in a hurry to talk about mending relationships without honesty. And I think that we have to have a level of transparency from the police. If they have a different narrative, an alternative narrative to what we've been seeing and what we just witnessed, it would behoove them to release those tapes. But I think also many in North Carolina, as well as around the country, were either insulted or disgusted by the press conference of the governor. To sit there and talk about the fatigue and stress of police officers, well, think about the collective fatigue and stress of many African Americans in this country, and then to talk about the cost associated with bringing in National Guards. The problem is that in many quarters of this country, there's a hierarchy of value when it comes to human lives. And apparently, based on what we've seen and based on the history, there's a low premium of value placed on African Americans.
He spent much of the time, actually, I mean, just if you look at the minutes he spent much of the time talking about flooding in a different part of this state. Nina, how do you read that, and what the response will be in that community now?
I mean, he just had a cavalier attitude. But I want the citizens, they taking it to the streets and peaceful protests, let us say, because nobody should ever attack law enforcement officers. But I want them to take it to the streets at the ballot box. And I'm not just talking about this year. Whatever we want in this country, a lot of it can be solved by the types of people that we elect to office. And we should not elect people to office who don't believe in the value and the worth of all people, but especially African Americans at this point in time. We really see how this country really feels about us. So again, this is a generational struggle, Kate. There are some solutions that we can have both federal. I don't believe that we have to wait for folks to be elected to the presidency to solve this problem, this conundrum right now. Mayors and city councils, governors and state legislators have it within their power right now to do something about this so that we don't have any more unnecessary bloodshed and so that we can start to repair. But I agree with the Reverend. We got to address this, but police do need the community and community need the police. Protect and serve should mean just that, not protect and shoot and then ask questions later.
Pastor Mike, really quickly, it's Friday afternoon. You got to give a sermon on Sunday, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you say?
I think I reiterate the fact that what we're seeing televised, whether it be in Charlotte or Oklahoma, is part of the narrative of this country. We have seen where there's the minimization and dehumanization of black bodies. We've seen this kind of violence. We've seen police exhibit harsh treatment and brutality towards African Americans. And at this point, we have to begin to not just shift the narrative and talk about how do we mend it. We need to talk about how do we begin to punish those who commit these acts. Why? You will not change behavior, curb behavior, unless there are obvious consequences to the actions. And until there are consistent consequences to the acts that are committed, especially the killing of unarmed citizens in this country, you will not see a curb in behavior among police.
Reverend Michael Waldron, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it. Nina, thank you as well.